I really appreciate you guys, being here. I want to leave something with value. So when we leave from here, I do want you guys all to have something you can take back with you. I'm going to be talking about some technical terms, going to be using some technical examples. But I think the big picture that everyone needs to walk away from is that in the mortgage industry right now, the technology game and challenge is the evolution of where we're going, right? Technology today, and if you're a CEO, if you're an executive, if you want to be really growing your career in the mortgage industry, you need to start understanding the technology. You don't need to be a programmer. You don't need to be an admin, but you need to understand what the questions you should ask and what's out there and what are the pitfalls that people are falling into. So we're kind of just going to talk about that. What I wanted to just start with is just talk about the big picture. The dot-com era really started in 2000, right? Technology was actually in the 90s. But we've had growth, but just in the last 10 years, we have over 300% increase across the board in most digital social media platforms, computer usage, Amazon, Google. You look at all the stuff that's been taking place, and it's been a rapid increase. Through COVID, how many here have been using Amazon Prime or home delivery or services you've never used before, right? That's what the average American consumer is using. But yet, unfortunately, in the mortgage industry, as we know, we don't have new technology, right? So some of the things that we're going to discuss is, in the mortgage industry, 15 and 30-year-old technology. That's what we're dealing with, right? So what happens is, how do you compete with that? That's what we're going to talk about. How do you compete with, what does that look like? What are the right steps to take, and who should you partner with? So just a couple of the points here. Why this really matters right now, there's a lot of misleading information out there. If you really think about it, people are using terms like APIs. Yes, we have an API. Well, that can mean a lot of things. And we're going to discuss what that actually means and what you should be asking and why that's important. If you really think about it, in the technology revolution, we're at the very beginning of the technology revolution, right? So what we built in 2000, standards that we use in 2000 have changed. Cloud computing wasn't happening in 2000. There wasn't Microsoft Azure Cloud. There wasn't the Amazon Cloud. There weren't standardized APIs and things like webhooks and standardized database system structures. It was pretty much, brand new. Everyone's building stuff and building custom pieces of software that may or may not work in the future with other pieces of software. Right? If you're a lender, I'm sure you're sitting there saying, gee, I know I have software in my platform right now that does not integrate. Right? There's holes. They don't work like they used to, or you want them to work. Your customer has a fallout somewhere inside the transaction because the data is not talking. They're not getting a seamless experience. So I think what we have to really look at is, why is that? Technology was built different 10 and 20 years ago. Right? We had different standards. It was new. The years to come, technology is going to be more important than it's been, and then just using the companies that are building the cloud and provide software as a service. And I think the beautiful thing about software as a service is this. If you were to stop and say, I'm going to build myself an Accelerate system, you're going to go spend $20 million and a lot of brain damage to do it, right? And you're going to be one person, and you may be really smart, but you're going to be one person with one person's feedback. Whereas you start leveraging technology providers to solve software as a service, we're able to provide technology to you at a much cheaper cost, maintain it for you, run it for you, and we can use your feedback plus the other 100+ lenders we have's feedback to provide to you a good solid solution and continue to give you a good solution. So you want to look at software providers that are providing this as software as a service and doing it on a consistent basis, and they're using things like cloud computing. Where are they hosting their platform? So here's a couple technical terms we're going to talk about right now, APIs and webhooks. So what is an API? Start with that. An API is an acronym for an application program interface, which is a software intermediary that allows two applications to talk to each other. So when someone says, I have an API, what that means is they have some type of gateway that allows somebody to talk to you and ask you some questions or do something. And we're going to kind of get into the importance of that. What is a webhook? And now this is something that is, I would say, newer technology. There's not a lot of providers in the mortgage industry that have things like webhooks. What webhooks are, they allow your system to send data to other systems based off of actions that happen in your platform. Why are these important? Well, if you have the correct APIs and the correct webhooks, You don't need programmers to integrate your software. You don't need the technology provider to build something new for you. There's all these things that you're able to actually just go do on your own and do it quickly and inexpensively, and you know there's a known outcome. You know that you can actually do it with very little effort. So when we talk about these things together, one of the things that we also kind of get into is you talk about your webhooks and your APIs, right? You want to understand what those mean, and we're going to talk about like endpoints and so forth in a second. But the other thing you want to talk about with your providers is I'd ask them, hey, what's your SDLC, software development lifecycle, right? So if you're talking to someone who's on the who's representing a technology company, and it's one of the executives, and it's someone that's in there that's actually informing decisions, and you ask the partner, what's your SDLC, and they tell you, I don't know, or they tell you, I'm not sure what my code base is, then I think you should probably ask yourself, was that really the partner I want? Because they have to know that, right? The days of us building some type of software that was, built behind a closed door without, the open market knowledge has changed. Because if you do that, you're not building standards, right? And you have to, really go after standards of how you do. So software development lifecycle really describes how someone actually builds their technology. What is it? How often do they do releases? How do they do their code base? How do they do reviews? Do they do an agile method? Do they use sprints? Like, what are they actually doing to create software? And the reason why I want to ask that is if they don't have a solid SDLC, you're not going to get consistent software out of them, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys have providers that you're using, and the last time you got an update was a year ago, or they updated your bill, and that they haven't actually put new stuff into the platform. So understanding this is going to let you know, do your providers actually know what they're doing? Is this a professional software development company that is going to continue today and tomorrow building software? How about this? Ask the question, where was your platform hosted? Great question, right? Some people, most people are going to say Microsoft Azure, or they're going to say the Amazon cloud. Wonderful. All right, what was your downtime last year? They should know that. I can tell you, last 3 years, on average, we averaged less than 3 hours of downtime every year. I know those numbers. Your providers should know those numbers. Do they have vulnerability tests? Have they had any security penetration tests? Do they have a SOC report? So these are all things letting you know, hey, is your data secure? Are they running a company the way it should be? Are they managing software the way industry standards are? And that's what these things all have, right? So you want companies with vulnerability tests and with SOC reports, because that lets you know that they're actually managing their software correctly. Questions to ask for. Ask for API documentation. So when someone says, I have an API, and you say, great, can I see the documentation? Now, we use something called a Swagger account. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Most technology providers use something similar to Swagger. They use Swagger. It's industry leader for showing how to use your APIs. But the reason why you want to ask for documentation, and then the next thing is you need to think about what you want to do. Okay, so an API could mean, I have an API, which means you're able to connect to my system and look up to see if there's a borrower of the same name. I can tell you yes or no. But that's all I can do. That's one endpoint. So each API has something called an endpoint. And each endpoint is the command or something that can be done. So you may look at technology providers and they have like 3 or 4 APIs. Well, that means there's only like 3 or 4 things you can do with their platform, right? And when we're talking technology and you're talking about seamless integrations, you need hundreds of endpoints. Well, you need companies to build stuff. The newer way to build things is called microservices or an end-tier application. So, we look at our platform, our entire platform is API driven. So when we're building a new feature, internally we're integrated through APIs. So all of our APIs are accessible. You can do anything you want with our platform through our APIs. And there's endless amounts of API endpoints. I'll show you some of the public ones here in a second. And then webhooks, same question. Do you have them? What can I do with them? Right? What does it allow me to actually do? Does it allow me to send information when this takes place? When a new lead gets assigned to a new person? When someone does a repeat loan, does it allow me to know that or send out a notification? I want to have my phone data from your CRM. I want it to go into the other system. Does it allow me to send out phone data? Does it let me send out email data, opt-ins, opt-outs, all these different bits of information? You need to ask those questions because if it's just, yes, I have an API, and yes, I have webhooks, you can be very limited. There are several technology providers that we're still waiting for APIs. It's been 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we're going to have the API so you guys can, we're going to create an API to let you do this. And it's year after year, it hasn't taken place. Now they have other APIs, but unfortunately, sometimes they're not the ones that lenders want to use. So you really have to think about, look at the documentation, and it's not just ask the question. It's ask the question of, what am I trying to do? Can you do that? Or look at the documentation, and does it show that you can do that? All right. So I'm just going to give you a handful of pages to kind of give you an idea of, so this is just an example of our public APIs and webhooks. This is just page by page. If you go to the website, you can go to our Swagger account, it'll just scroll down. So this is a screenshot page by page. Give you an idea of all the different type of webhooks we have, whether it's create an application, get an application, update a record, phone data, configurations, distribution engines. I can't read that from here. External contacts, you're working with your external partners or referral agents, you want to be able to interact with that data in and out of the system. All these different things are different endpoints. Right? This is a lot of endpoints you're getting access to. Then you have access to modules. These are all different tools and pieces of software you don't have to do any programming on. You can have someone who's not a programmer actually do integrations with. Right? Pages of these things. And they can do anything from reassignments to data lookup to data response. You can even have a system, if you use Zapier, there's Zapier functions you can replace with our platform. You can actually talk back and forth. The reason why I'm showing you guys this, obviously I would love for you guys all to check out our software, but it's because this is what you should be looking for. These are the questions you should be asking. I want to see your Swagger account. I want to see all these webhooks. I want to see all your microservices, pages of them. And then inside of each one of your APIs, you should be able to open it up and do test code. And you should be able to see choose formats. Do you want to use XML? Do you want to use JSON, HTML? That all matters because some systems, and there's a lot of limitations, they can use just one format. So it makes it harder to integrate with other systems. You come to a platform like ours, we can integrate to any format. So you can have divergent systems going through our software and being integrated. These are the questions you really want to be asking your providers, right? Let me actually see your API. What does that actually mean? How do you develop your software? How often do you guys do releases? When was the last time you had downtime? What is your downtime? Do you even know your downtime? Right? Those are all questions that you want to know, because if they don't know the answers to that, then they're probably not the technology provider you want to hitch your wagon to over the years, because they need to know those answers. Because that's what's needed in this space, right? Technology is moving faster now than ever before. So if you don't have a platform that's nimble and quick and has all these types of tech APIs and webhooks and built infrastructure the way it is, it's going to be hard to move. And you guys can see that. How many people here have a system that looks the same as it did 20 years ago when you first got in the mortgage industry? I do. I know. I looked at LOSs. They haven't changed in 20 years. Didn't change in 25. I've been in the industry for 23 years, and it's still the same thing, right? So those software hasn't changed. And we have to know that that cannot continue. Because there is real money, and we have lenders on our platform that are doing amazing things right now with the software that are really putting real money behind technology to actually really change how we do a loan. Thus far, it really haven't changed how someone does a loan. We're doing a loan the same way as we always have done it. We take an application. I'm doing a loan right now. I'm having to get copies of my bank statements, even though they have access through my online portal. All these things, that will change. That's not going to stay the same. And the interaction with your customers and how you interact with them is not going to change, right? So if you want to really maximize your partners and understand, how making sure you're hitching your wagon to the right technology providers, ask about those questions, right? Let me see your APIs. Let me see your webhooks, and put some thought behind what you want to do with the system. Okay, what we call a use case. All right, so we would like to be able to do this. We want this system to talk to here and do this action if this takes place. Can you support that, right? And there's plenty of help out there. Plenty of professionals out there that understand how this all works. They're not programmers, and so they're less expensive. They're easy to work with. They're more business-related people, and then they'll be able to help you guys set these things up, right? So I hope you guys took away a few bits and pieces from this. Again, most importantly, the market is changing, right? So the market's changing, and technology is going to be where we gain efficiencies. Cost to produce a loan is still over $9,000, right? You know that technology is going to reduce those costs. And those lenders that embrace that are going to win. So with that, I want to say thank you guys all. Hopefully we will see you around. We'll be up the party tomorrow night, and stop by our booth and talk to one of our associates if you'd like to find out more. Thank you.